Cinephiles, film enthusiasts, and relaxation seekers. My name is Cinephile ASMR, and today we are discussing Steven Spielberg's 2021 remake, reimagining of West Side Story. An incredible disclaimer that I need to tell right now is that I have not seen the original play or the original movie in which this film is based upon, so everything that I say is entirely based upon the merits of the 2021 film. But with that in mind, West Side Story tells the tale of two rival gangs, the Jets and the Sharks, as they duke it out and the rising animosity builds over the turf that they stand on. And with the growing times, the demolishing of that land is beginning to make tensions build. You have the Jets, who is a predominantly white-run gang who feel like their turf and their land belongs to them because they were there before. And then you have the Sharks, people of color, Puerto Ricans, and Latino communities that come together to protect what they believe to be their right. But throughout it all, you have an individual from both sides. They're not a part of the gangs, but they are affiliated with both, and they spark a kindling love, and with that, craziness ensues. As I said before, though, I have not seen the original film or really knew incredible depth details of the story. I just knew about the gangs and the love interests. So going in, I was excited. This is a Steven Spielberg movie. There is so much talent on display here. And I'm a big fan of musicals. I wasn't always, though. I think over time, my opinions and just overall notions about certain genres and subgenres have changed. And one of the biggest leading that is musicals. After I saw La La Land back in 2016, my mind was expanded. So I was eager to see this movie. But what did I think? Well, let me start with some of the best and incredible positives. For one, the technical elements on display in this film are bar none some of the best you'll ever see in the musical genre. This is Steven Spielberg, a man that could maybe, arguably, debatably be the best there is in the industry. Now, I will say over the past few years with Ready Player One, the BFG, I have seen a slight faltering in that flair, that seasoning, that identity that makes Spielberg the man who he is. And I wanted to see this because I've heard many times that this is such a huge, inspiring project for him to make. So I was going into this, and immediately from the first frame, him and DP, apologize if I pronounce this incorrectly, Janice Kaminsky, go to town on this. You have this sweeping shot that goes in the location of the rubble of this area in New York, and then it introduces the Jets. And I knew, and it's one of the most comforting things when you're watching a film, knowing that you're in the hands of scholarly, veteran, experienced artists. And I was watching this movie, and I was continually floored in every scene, despite what I feel about certain specific elements of this movie, the technical stuff, the lighting, the camera work, the direction, and the editing are some of the best you will ever see in 2021 and in the musical landscape. Seriously, I haven't seen lighting this good in a very long time. There is a meticulousness, a planning, a methodical nature to every single frame. And then you have the lighting where characters enter. Lighting comes into frame, it comes out subtly, but it makes for such an invoking of emotion on a technical level, and it really helps to uplift some aspects that I do feel are lacking of this movie. But I can't sing this movie's praise enough when it comes to those technical elements. The first shot of the film and the last shot alone are just, oh my goodness. It is going to be really difficult to go into musicals after this with such pleasure on a technical level because I was spoiled with this. I felt as an audience member, my my senses were overtaken because of how great of artists were utilizing their ability on such a level in this. The acting for most of the characters is just adding to that beauty. You have Rachel Zegler as this new incoming actress that I've never heard of before as Maria, and that is huge shoes to fill. But her singing is immaculate, but her performance as Maria, as this character, this deer in headlights, as you're seeing what is going on with her, she's been very sheltered, and as such, when she is introduced to Tony in this whole world, her senses, like mine, were completely thrown for a loop. And Rachel Zegler perfects that and is so beautiful, physically, emotionally, acting wise. But she's not the only heavy hitter here. Mike Feist, I believe I pronounced his name right, as Riff, and David Alvarez as Bernardo, basically the two leaders of the Sharks and the Jets, when they're on screen together. Oh my goodness. Good luck trying to find anybody else that'll be able to fulfill roles like that better. And then you have Ariana DeBose as Anita, the lover to Bernardo, the person that kind of grounds him. This man who basically speaks with his fists but is the most protective person around. And she is basically the coolant, the equalizer to it all. And their chemistry is just beautiful. But I'm not trying to gloss over Mike Feist as Riff. This man is angry, this man is frustrated, and what the movie also does so beautifully is over time, over this 2.5 hour runtime, you're able to understand the backstory behind the Jets. They aren't just these white racists, but these are kids, these are young boys that were just steered off the wrong path through their upbringing or a lack thereof it. And that also leads me into this movie has some of the best choreography you will ever see. And this is something that I will be comparing to an earlier musical this year, which I adored, In the Heights. I felt was slightly lacking was how the camera work and the choreography work in tandem within West Side Story, particularly a moment between Tony and Riff and a gun. Oh my goodness, it was calculated to a T with the camera in mind with a musical that I love, mind you, like In the Heights. There is beautiful choreography on display, but I feel the camera in few instances wasn't utilized to its fullest potential to maximize the punch, the emotion, and that's why I'm saying it takes something so veteran as Steven Spielberg and Janis Kaminski to work together to perfect and invoke such beauty with the lighting, shot composition, editing, sound, and the music, of course. But man, there is moments in this, like I said, the Riff and the Tony scene, along with a particularly heartfelt moment, well, less heartfelt but more eye-opening, with the Jets in sort of like a holding cell, and as they sing, it really kind of opens the eyes to the perspective of what these individuals have gone through, because you get the Sharks are the ones to most easily get behind, but with the Jets, that's a huge undertaking to really kind of humanize very animalistic, terrible people, but they're just kids. And this movie does that terrifically. There's so many incredible moments. Tony and Riff scene, the holding cell scene, the dance scene earlier on in the film, and everyone is talking about this puddle shot. Oh my gosh, it is fantastic. I do have to say one thing though. I have one glaring issue, well, two, but I feel for this movie, I can specifically weed out the issue for Steven Spielberg's adaptation, and then one about the West Side Story narrative as a whole. Ansel Elgort is unfortunately woefully miscast as Tony. This is an individual who did a horrible incident, an egregious incident, and as such has done his time, but is deflected from the Jets' ways. And that is a lot of depth that you have to deliver. That is a lot of character motivation that you have to showcase. And after I watched this movie, I started to think about the movies that Ansel Elgort has done. And Steven Spielberg has said the reason why he was so involved with Ansel Elgort's career was because of Baby Driver. And I love Baby Driver. But similarly to West Side Story, both of those movies' most intriguing characters are the ones around the main characters. I love Baby Driver, but it was John Hamm, Jamie Foxx, Isaac Gonzalez that I just cared so much more about than Baby. And that character doesn't really talk nearly as much as Tony does in this movie. And Ansel Elgort, to his own credit, does sing well, and I think that was kind of the rose-tinted glasses that made me think, oh, okay, so he sings well, so that means he acts well. No. And I'm not trying to say, because of also some allegations that have come up within the past year or so pertaining to Ansel Elgort's individual and person as a human, not just an actor, which I think is terrible, and it's just disgusting. And it's a real shame that he was cast, not just because of that, but because he's also not that great of an actor. It really made me feel like he was cast because of his star power and not the versatility as an actor he could bring to the character. Because nobody else in this movie that I watched, I had any prior knowledge towards. It was just him. And when it comes to the moments between him and Maria, it feels like Rachel Zegler is carrying this man throughout it all, and that is partly why I just cannot give my hat off to her enough. But man, if Tony is one of the main characters of the film, it's just really difficult to buy into it when you have an actor as dull and narrow in terms of delivery like Ansel Elgort. Added my other issue. There is certain things about West Side Story that I find difficult to get into. Just narrative stuff, and it really does come down to the Tony and Maria relationship. I find it to be a lot weaker than what I believe to be the most interesting thing, Riff and Bernardo, along with Anita's relationship. In my opinion, I think West Side Story would have been, and of course I feel like I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, would have been a lot more intriguing and investing if it followed more of Anita and Bernardo when they were on screen. I don't know if it was because of Alvarez and Bose's performances, but I couldn't get enough of it. And then it cuts back to Tony, and I'm like, oh, it's sad. It's frustrating because I want to love this. Like, I've been singing this movie's praise because of its technicality, but you can have the best stuff revolving around something, but if the core doesn't hit you or connect with you, it's going to be difficult for you to really adore it. You can tell yourself, I can tell myself all I want that this movie's perfect. On a technical level, it is, but there's just some of the songs and some of the music and characters of Tony and their dynamic that I just feel is a little rushed, that I find to be very difficult to get into. And overall, it leaves me wishing that I could adore this movie, because there is aspects that I will gush over till the day I die. I bring up In the Heights again because I adored that movie, and despite it not perhaps being on the same caliber of execution like West Side Story is on the purely, filmmaking aspects, that movie's heart was there. It was frenetic, it was on fire, and I just connected with more of the music and the themes to that film. And that Abuela scene in the Heights will go down as one of my favorite moments in musical history. It was just, took my heart out, and it said, you know what, you're gonna cry, buddy. And I did. And I almost was brought to tears, but it was because of the performances outside of Ansel Elgort, Rachel Zegler, Ariana DeBose, Mike Feist. Everybody around them does such a good job, and the technical elements I can't rave enough about. I could talk about that for hours, but at the end of the day, the core dynamic between Anita and Bernardo were far more interesting than that of Tony and Maria. And I can't convince myself otherwise. Maybe upon rewatch, I'll love it even more. But with that being said, Steven Spielberg being at his best in years, maybe this is his best film since 2005 or 6, his Munich, and has some of the best camera work I've seen all year. It was beautiful to the degree and power that these long takes will have on you if you really pay attention. Rachel Zegler, oh my goodness, give her an Oscar immediately. She is so talented, so wonderful, such a warm spirit, and these characters outside of Tony are fantastic. I could just have own movies about them, and I would love it so much. But it sadly is weighed down by a relationship that you can tell me over and over and over again works, and they love each other, but if I don't see it and feel it, it doesn't matter to me. And Ansel Elgort, his creepy, honking self, sadly, is just not good. I hate to say that, and I love to be as positive as I can, and I do think you should strongly go check it out for those elements. It's really good. It's really good. It just isn't great, and I've been thinking about this quite a bit. So with all that being said, I'm going to give Steven Spielberg's West Side Story a B+. I know I sounded a bit more like pessimistic towards the end, but I really did love moments of this. I had chills, goosebumps, electric throughout my body because of how incredibly well crafted this movie is. It just didn't resonate with me at the core. So, what did you think of West Side Story? What has been your favorite musical in the past few years, or in general? A lot of people have been saying they like this more than the original. Which one do you prefer? Let me know down below. As always, I love you so, so much. Oh man, making these videos fills my heart with so much joy, and I hope you guys can see that. Stay tuned for more videos coming very soon. Hit the like and subscribe button. As always, remember to take life one frame at a time.